At the end of 2023, he was second in my top 5 karting graduates. At the end of 2025, he can call himself Italian F4 champion. Hello and welcome, fellow motorsports fans. Kean Nakamura-Berta has fulfilled the prophecy by taking the biggest F4 title in the world. Maksim Orlov made history at the Karting World Championship, and Kit Belofsky flashed the world with his F4 debut. And I'm here to tell you all about how it happened and why it means so much. So let's go. Saudi Arabian F4 is back, and before we get into the amazing small grid they put together and the races that occurred, let me start with some appreciation for the series. I love that they are going with the French F4 approach of equal machinery for everyone, and that they have massively improved the concept from last year by making it more of a fall series instead of yet another winter series, though they did maybe kick it off just a couple weeks too early in my opinion. Talking about the actual racing though, the breakout star of the weekend was without a doubt young Kit Belofsky. We have talked about the tail end of his karting career a few times last season, and in my opinion he was one of the very best wet weather drivers out there. That's how he got his best results. Therefore, I thought this series might rob him of his biggest advantage, but never mind, he came out the gate swinging, both fast and super racy to take the win in his very first car race. Truly an impressive debut and a great sign going forward. If this is what he can do in the dry, wait for his first wet car race. The other frontrunners were the more experienced hands of Adam Alazari, Theo Palmer and Nina Gardeman. It makes sense that the experienced drivers are at the front of course, but Palmer in particular I did not expect to be this impressive, so it was a pleasant surprise. With Gardeman, we had already seen her do well last winter, and it's cool to see that trend continue here. Makes you wonder how she almost looks better against the guys than in F1 Academy. Recently crowned Karting World Champion Tibor Ramekers and Red Bull Junior Scott Lindblom were my most anticipated debutants, and they did deliver for the most part. Only Belofsky of course managed to make them look average. Both got up to speed quickly and were fighting for podium positions, so I reckon it is only a matter of time until they bring home their first wins as well. Last but not least, I was of course mega excited to see Chiara Batik in a car for the first time as well. The Swiss karting star has of course made the headlines a few times this year already and is comfortably the biggest female prospect graduating to cars this season. And while she has had her issues in the races, she was quick throughout the weekend, comfortably the second fastest girl, and the results do not at all reflect the pace she has shown. Definitely more to come on that front as well. Italian F4 has come to an end, and I am glad to report that Kean Nakamura-Berta has indeed fulfilled the prophecy by securing the title, at least somewhat comfortably. If we roll back the time to late 2023, I called Freddie Slater, Kean Nakamura-Berta, Alex Powell and Thomas Stoltzemanis as 4 of my top 5 karting graduates of the year. And while predicting Fast Freddy as the best of the lot was an easy prediction to nail, it is satisfying to see that a year later, KNB is also living up to my rather high expectations. On the other side of the coin, Stoltzemanis has disappeared, more about that in the Karting Report, and Alex Powell has not really looked quite as sharp since his transition to RSGP, leaving KNB as the only one of the trio to really remain in the spotlight for the time being. But Powell and KNB have shown time and time again over their careers that they are an incredibly close match, so I am still prepared for Powell to strike back, assuming they meet again in Fracker. At the same time, I want to make it very clear just how highly I rate the former CRG ace driver Gabriel Gomes, despite the Brazilian missing out on a chance at the title with some mechanical issues. Gomes is a huge talent, would have certainly been in that aforementioned top 5 karting graduates list had his step up been confirmed at the time, and I am expecting big things in the future. He had some pretty serious competition at US Racing and honestly still managed to somehow make it look pretty easy. That absolutely deserves our attention. The star of this particular weekend though was Andretti Junior Sebastian Weldon, who won all but the last race. I will say he has made big steps in his development this season to find himself as a true front runner in Italian F4. Kid certainly knows how to drive, and I am kinda curious to see where he goes from here. With Salim Hanar and Newman Cheese still impressing big time as well, those Premier seats in Frecker might be rather contested next season. One man who probably shouldn't be in the mix for those, but might still find himself in one anyway, is Williams Jr. Alexander Bondarev. Bondi has had a solid weekend here and did manage to score his second ever podium, but holistically this season still has to be considered a disappointment for the highly anticipated former European karting champion, especially considering he did have a half season in preparation last year as well. I kinda hope he returns to the series again next year. I think with F1 as a goal in mind, finding himself in the title fight is a bit of a must-have before moving on, but let's wait and see if his management agrees with me there. Last but not least, a shout out for former karting world champion Kirill Kutzkov. I know, I do that almost every Italian F4 race weekend, but to be honest, the lad really deserves it. Growing together with the up-and-coming MEFA racing team across his Central European and Italian F4 programs to peak here with 3 separate top 8 finishes. On this grid, against these teams, that achievement cannot be overstated. And while I still consider his karting world title a huge fluke, go watch that race if you haven't, it is a bit of a classic, he has really proven his worth ever since he sat down an F4 car for the first time. Now we'll just have to wait to find out whether he has the necessary budget to continue his career properly. I will finally record my F3 review on Friday, so it should be up either Friday or Saturday for you guys, which means I should have free capacity next week to do the same for Italian F4. Given how little time we spent talking about the many competent midfield drivers, I reckon the series really deserves it. The SuperFormula weekend started with a big bang away from the track as two-time WRC champion Kalle Rovanperä has announced his retirement from rally and a switch to SuperFormula for 2026 in preparation for an F2 campaign in 2027. Not only does this come entirely out of nowhere, it is also a mad jump that can really only even have a chance of success because the guy is one of the most talented racing drivers on the planet. While I don't doubt his raw ability, making it work in both SuperFormula and F2 would still require nothing short of a miracle in my opinion, but I'll certainly be there to watch the fireworks. Rovanperä has tried his hand at some circuit racing in the Porsche Cup Benelux last season, but since that series really is rather low level and a bit of a feeder series for the bigger Carrera Cup series, I'd rather not read anything into that performance. To give you guys a reference, my favourite Porsche Cup driver, Robert De Haan, dominated the field in his rookie season in 2023 and was still ever so slightly out of his depth in the German Porsche Cup in 2024. It'll be one hell of a learning curve for Rovanperä, that much is certain. There was still no broadcast for me and only one race anyway, but I still wanted to provide a huge shout out for Sasha Fenestras. From a horrible start to the season to a P2 at Sugo and a win here at Fuji, after his shocking sophomore Formula E season, this is just what he needs to get his career back on track. As far as the title fight is concerned, we've still got a trio of big contenders with Tom's ace Schulze Boy leading by 14.5 points ahead of Dandelion's Kakinosh Otter and former Red Bull junior Ayumu Iwasa. The latter has of course also overcome his streak of bad luck recently with win at Sugo that we have not yet talked about. Otter's teammate Makino is also still mathematically in contention but would need a bit of a miracle to take the title. Quite a twist when we consider that the season started as a Dandelion versus Dandelion kind of thing. I'd love to provide more insight and context on that, but unfortunately for once, I am also stuck to working with just Wikipedia and some articles, really hoping to find a solution for that next season. Meanwhile, let's jump to my favorite part of this weekend for our quick weekly karting report. The FIA portion of the karting season has come to an end with the World Championship weekend for the shifter categories, and what can I say, it was a good one for the feeder series fans I reckon. In KZ2, Maksim Orlov fulfilled his destiny by ending an incredible season with the most prestigious title to add to his European Championship. The young Russian has really been on another level all year, and from the second he took the lead with a mental overtake around the outside of Maxi Schleimer, it was clear for everyone that he was just gonna run away with it, and so he did. I've spent the last 2 years telling you how rapid the guy is, so this shouldn't come as a big surprise. I really hope he can leverage this season for some sponsor money, but if not, I am looking forward to see what he can do on the top level of karting in the future. British youngsters Noah Wolf and Timo Jungling had surprisingly similar seasons so far. Both of them with excellent pace and ability to recover from poor starting positions, I guess even more true for Wolf than for Jungling, but both really struggled to string together a clean weekend. It is therefore a bit of a poetic justice that they ended their rookie campaigns on a high by both scoring a podium at the biggest race of the year. Wolf has alluded to another year in the class and no news from younglings, so they might lack the budget to jump up to F4. Nevertheless, both are absolutely exciting talents to watch and really deserve the success here. Unfortunately, the driver who you might know by now as my personal favourite, Formula K ace Marcus Kayak, had a proper shit weekend, starting with what appeared to be technical issues in qualifying, and it didn't get much better from there, ultimately leaving him missing the final despite some good progress in the heats he actually managed to complete. I'm sure he'll return stronger and will presumably remain one of the heavy hitters next season, and of course there is one more big race coming up at the Supernats. And a shout out for the German faction. Between Maxi Schleimer, Simon Rechenmacher and Robert Kindervater, we really had some great representation in the top 10 for once on the road, and it made me especially happy to see youngsters Rechenmacher and Schleimer do as well as they did all season long. And in the same vein, it was the confirmed final karting race for some of the guys before their step up to F4, including Rechenmacher, Richard Mille's shootout winner Kasper Schulmans, and the only woman on the grid with Zoe Florescu-Potolea. So excited to see these guys and girls in the car next year, you better watch out. Fingers crossed a few more will join that group as well. One sad bit to end this segment on, I got really excited while watching last week's Champions of the Future shift around to see Thomas Stoltze back in a kart with his old Energy Course team. As you might know by now, I happen to be rather fond of both Stoltze and Energy Course, and knowing how good the guy used to be in KZ2, I had him down as a bit of a dark horse for the title if I'm honest. And somehow, despite announcing their participation, the entire squad has been missing from the World Championship and I could not figure out why. Which also means the quick Frenchie Arthur Poulain had to sit this one out as well. The only hint we got was Stoltze posting that he has been enjoying taking a step back and racing lower pressure local karting series. Bit of a glimpse into the dark side of an industry that likes putting the spotlight on 11-year-olds nowadays, I suppose. Really hope we'll see him back at the highest level eventually. In KZ, the officially highest level of karting competition, we've got to witness a hugely satisfying title for Saudi ace Senna van Wolstein, beating Victor Gustafsson in a tight duel after just losing out to Giuseppe Palombo last year. And honestly, the emotions displayed by him and the team afterwards were almost overwhelming, even as a viewer. If you like athletes being brought to tears, I recommend checking out that celebration after the race. For me, the real story should have been a different one though. The stage looked set for a perfect race after I already had to endure the aforementioned disappointing weekend from Marcus Kayak. Fellow Formula K driver and proper German karting star David Trefeloff sat on the front row, ready to give it his all for the world title. And not only did he screw it up before the race even began by doing a half-hearted jump start, he later got involved in a horrendously scary looking accident. I mean, watch this. I don't know how he just get up and walk away from that one. Definitely not the end of the weekend he would have deserved for the performance he's shown, that is for sure. But much like Kayak, I've got no doubt he'll return even stronger. And while I won't do a proper sports car segment this weekend, I have decided I'll throw in a few more stories from other bits of the racing world every now and then going forward. This time though, I just want to recommend you the 1 hour Bathurst 1000 highlights from the Aussie Supercars. Doesn't matter if you don't know the teams, drivers or the series itself, that race was an absolute banger and really a must watch for every racing fan in my opinion. It really had a bit of everything. Before you go watch that though, first you should of course drop all of your thoughts and opinions about our small feeder series world down in the comments so we can get our lovely little discussion going. And otherwise, I thank you all for watching and I hope to catch you in the next one when it's time for the Formula Regional Americas season finale.